Aloha, I'm Dreaming Bear,
And I am Destiny.
and we welcome you to the Literati Experience, a short, brief half-hour show where we discuss the philosophical ideas and concepts from the various influencers covered in the Literati series. And we started this because we thought, I think that maybe it might help other people. We're doing the process of the Literati Challenge, which the challenge is watch one episode of Literati a day with a different thinker from a different place and time. Have that time travel experience where you sit with them, hear their thoughts, take notes on what they have to say, contemplate it, and then take what you like and add it to your life and just leave the rest behind. Is that how you would describe the experience?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's the process of the Literati Challenge. We're undergoing it right now, where I guess we're about 10 people deep right now. And we thought, hey, why not record this, share it with people, invite you guys in on the conversation. Because really, if Literati is anything, I think it's a conversation of the finest minds across time. And for me, I know creating the whole series here, it's been an experience of being sort of the center of a whirling vortex of thoughts and experiences of other people in other times and places. And it's brought me to this place where these people are kind of having a conversation inside me. Or like when I'll go out in public and be with friends or whatnot, and there's conversation happening, I can hear the people that I'm working on in the Literati series, I can hear their words interjecting in the conversation sometimes, you know. So it's been a real visceral experience for me. And I thought we would just invite you in on that. Anything you want to add to that?
I'm just really excited to embark on this journey that you started with your passion for literati, and I've kind of followed along with you, and now we're kind of taking action on the literati challenge and taking it a step further with the literati experience. And
right.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, we're kind of approaching it with, let's hear this wisdom and try to incorporate it into our life. I think in a way that makes our life better. So we're taking the parts and then holding each other to the accountability of what some of these great thoughts are that we agree with, that we both kind of find resonance with. And yeah, it's been an exciting experience. So let's start today. Our very first literati experience person we want to cover today is Aristotle.
Mm-hmm.
So you can read the little blurb about Aristotle. Go to the link below and you'll see the episode that we're referring to. And what we do is we watch the episode once and just listen to it and hear it. And then we watch it a second time and sort of take notes on the little parts that stick out to us. You can do it that way or some other way, but either way, try to involve note-taking because it really helps you to remember the key points. And don't feel afraid to pause the video for a second and then write down something if it stands out to you. And then we take those things that stand out to us and we start to discuss them. So our most recent watch was Aristotle, and it's called The Good Life because he had a philosophy of a certain way of living that amounted to, quote-unquote, the good life, according to a philosophical standard. And so what was the first thing that sort of stood out to you in your notes here?
I wrote from what I took from what he said. Love is composed of a single soul inhabiting two bodies.
When I first heard that, it kind of struck me as romantic for a philosophical approach to life, because you don't think of philosophy, although it means love of wisdom. I guess it sort of makes sense that it would be, you know, sort of a romantic view of this relationship with wisdom itself. What did you take from that?
Well, when you are in love with another being, you know, you kind of create a soul, a bond with each other that is unique, and it can't be created anywhere else except with those two people. And you know, it kind of like it's you're creating kind of another being, like when you merge love in that way.
Yeah, there's something that does happen when people fall in love or are in love, or even, you know, it doesn't have to be just romantic love, but love in general somehow creates a oneness between two beings. I think that's what you're referring to.
Yeah.
And I could see how in the poetic metaphor, which what I love about Aristotle is that he's a big fan of poetry, and we're going to talk about that later. But the metaphor that, you know, love can be composed of just two beings sharing one soul. I think it's such a beautiful poetic metaphor. What do you think? All right, number 2.
First, have a goal. Then, take the necessary means to accomplish that goal. And then apply everything you have to it.
Right. He talks about that that's sort of like a roadmap for manifestation if you think about it.
Yeah.
You know, what did it bring up for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's like when you have a goal, don't just leave it on the table. Like, actually do everything you can to accomplish it, you know? And he says later on, like, accomplishing your goals is the meaning of life. And it's like that you got to take everything you have and give everything you have.
I think his exact words were, have a definite, clear goal of what you want. And then he talks about acquiring the means to manifest that goal by whatever that is, whatever that might mean. It might mean materials, it might mean finances, it might mean, you know, but whatever it is, acquire the means, right? And then the sort of the third step in that 3-step program that he outlines is give everything you have, all your means towards making that goal happen. And then it will happen. Voila, there's the secret to manifestation right there. Aristotle. What else we got?
Happiness depends on ourselves.
Happiness, that's a big one, isn't it? What does that bring up for you, happiness? I mean, there's, you know, I think Socrates says that wisdom begins with a definition of terms, right? But so if we were to define happiness, what does that look like? I think everyone else, you know, there's the American dream, there's the dream of making it big, but everyone has a different definition of happiness somewhere along the way, like true core happiness, authentic happiness.
Yeah.
But what did that bring up for you, that it's dependent upon ourselves? And if you want to speak to what happiness means for you too.
Well, it's dependent upon ourselves because, you know, the world around us is dependent on ourselves, you know, and how we think of the world and our perspective, and what we think of is what creates our reality. And if you want happiness, then, you know, try to generate happy thoughts.
I think we didn't write this down, but I think at some point on this episode he says something akin to the essence of life is the activity of the mind. And that just really puts into perspective, like, what you think becomes your reality. And so for me, when he says happiness is up to ourselves, it really is really just about us choosing to be happy. And of course, defining that for ourselves, what our own definition of success and happiness looks like. But then to be happy is up to us, ultimately. No one can make us happy or unhappy. Only we can do that to ourselves. All right, Aristotle, what else you got?
Make doing good a habit.
Make doing good a habit. I think, you know, that's something that I chose to do without knowing that Aristotle had said this when I was very young. I could see 2 paths ahead of me. I could see the path of my father's, you know, youth, misbegotten youth, of making mistakes and choices that don't really bring us to our full alignment with who we are. Or I could make this other choice where instead of smoking and drinking and going out and partying, I could develop talents, I could develop abilities. I could play the piano, I could learn another language, I could read, you know. And so that's what it sort of brings up for me. It's something that occurred to me as a choice early on in life, not in a philosophical sense, but just as a sort of deciding where you want your life to go as a young person, you know. And I chose early on to sort of make good habits versus bad habits.
Yeah.
But he says that making, you know, that doing good should be a habit. Just basically doing. What does that bring up for you?
Well, I mean, we have a similar path of, going down a healthy path and kind of avoiding the things that aren't healthy, like drinking and smoking. Like, I avoided those things as well. And I took really good care of my body. I still do. Like, that is priority to me. And it's such a habit. Like, I can't think of any other way of being, because I made it a priority. But it also means just like being a good human being, like to yourself and to other people. Like, yeah, you can take care of yourself, but also can you be nice and can be good to other people? And like making that a habit. Yeah, that's
easier said than done.
Yeah, it's a practice. It's something that takes time, but
yeah, I think he speaks to that one later on. I don't know if we wrote it down necessarily, but about what it means to embody that as well.
Yeah.
Because doing good means different things to different people, right?
Yeah, it's true.
All right, what else we got?
Life has meaning when you pursue goals.
That's really true. I mean, he kind of says, I think, prior to that the human animal is a goal-oriented creature, you know, that we kind of need a goal, a purpose, at least, to propel us forward in life. Can you relate to that at all?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like there is no meaning in life when you, A, don't have a goal, or B, don't pursue any of your goals. The important ones that matter to you. And so that's very true for me. I mean, yeah, I can't see life having any meaning without goals and pursuing them.
I think for me, probably because I'm a poet, I would rather say dreams in place of the word goals. You know, for me, dreams have been my sort of motivating factor in life, hence DreamingBear. But when I think of something as a goal, I think of it more as in a mental way. But when I think of it as a dream, I think of it from my heart. At least that's my perspective of it. So the only thing I would add to that, not that you could add to Aristotle by any stretch of the imagination, but would be dreams.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What else?
Poetry expresses the universal. History only expresses the particular.
I thought that was interesting. You know, he kind of he says poetry is more important than history because poetry speaks to something universal in all of us, right?
Yeah.
But history speaks to something particular in a specific moment in time.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, the truth of that statement is self-evident. But did you resonate with it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, before I learned about poetry, I didn't really understand like the difference between all those things, like philosophy and history. Like, it seemed kind of just something I wasn't really interested in, just because I was never really taught about it in a way that seemed enlightening to me.
More interesting.
Yeah, interesting. But when I met you, it seemed very interesting, and that's why we're doing this Literati, because poetry is so interesting.
It is. Although each series also includes like a little 5,000 word essay on the person's life. I think that's important to know the context of them, because what I discovered over time is that all these great thinkers in the Literati series went through something hard in their life and had to overcome challenges to be who they were. None of them had it easy. In fact, some of these people we're going to be discussing, were forced to drink poison, like Socrates. But anyways, I think that speaks for itself. What else?
Beauty of the soul emanates when going through challenges gracefully.
Ooh, that's a hard one to do, isn't it? Go through a challenge gracefully.
Yeah, I wish I could do that every time.
It's also it's like I told you, it's like a pop quiz, like from the universe, to see if you've matured, and it pops a quiz on you every now and then, and the test is, here's a little bit of adversity. How will you respond to it?
Yeah,
You know.
definitely.
And I've had moments where I've responded to the adversity by crying like a little baby and being a bitch, quote unquote, you know, as they say. But also moments where I've arose to the occasion and I'm proud of how I've responded. I've had moments of just being angry of the universe, but more, I think those are like the limit edge moments when something catastrophic happens.
Yeah.
By and large, I feel a sense of sort of in loveness with existence. You know, and I think that we kind of talked about this earlier off camera, that our relationship to existence itself is sort of the primary relationship that we have.
Yeah.
And we have to protect that. And if that's good, all the other relationships we have can be good as well. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I wish we were taught how to handle challenges, like, from the get-go, like, in school.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that just seems like something we should have been taught.
Right.
Know? But we were not. And it seems like over time, you have to learn how to get through challenges. You just have to. If you want to
But he
survive.
also has the word gracefully.
Yeah, but gracefully.
With dignity.
Yeah, and
right?
dignity. It's like, that's a whole other level.
Right, because bad things happen to everybody, but not everyone can respond to those things in a way that shows a maturity and a close-knit relationship with existence.
Yeah, and it's like, instead of carrying the trauma and the suffering with you, you can let it go and close the door and move on because you are able to move through it gracefully and accept it when it comes, you know, instead of trying to like avoid it, or it's too hard, I don't want to go through this, and it's like all the resistance is what makes it hard.
Exactly.
And it's just, yeah.
Well, that's where trust comes in, and we've been talking a lot about trust in our personal lives and what it looks like to live a life of trust versus a life of not trust. And the experiment of not trusting is one of fear, one of upsetness, one of anxiety, and the experiment of trusting is one of complete serenity and surrender to what is, you know, knowing that you're going to be cared for and it will work out.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't seem like that.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. What else we got here from Aristotle in our last 12 minutes?
Think like a wise man, speak like a commoner.
No. That's Wile E. Coyote kind of stuff right there, you know, like just think like a wise man, but speak so that everyone can understand what you're saying. You know, I think my grandmother used to say, don't be so heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. That's what she would say to me. Because I would get so lost in, you know, wanting to be spiritual. And she would say, don't get so heavenly minded, you know, earthly good. Yeah. I think that's sort of where he's coming from. You know, you can carry wisdom in a way that everyone can relate to, which is what I love about Stoics and these early ancient philosophers. They seem to have a poverty of needs, as one describes it. You know, I think Marcus Aurelius, and that's true wealth, according to them, you know.
Yeah.
What does it bring up for you?
Well, I mean, it's not much because I'm not much of a speaker. You know, I love to think like fantasies and all that, but I don't really think about speaking my thoughts as much as you do or other people do. You know?
But you carry on conversations. I think I think it applies most. If we can't do anything, we should apply these things to our the most common aspects of our life. And for me, this is like I remember when I was younger, I had like a strict. I only wanted to talk about things that mattered. And if I found myself in a conversation with someone talking about bullcrap, I would cut it off. I'd say, listen, could we change the subject matter to something more uplifting and edifying or
that's
enlightening?
Where it can get hard.
And people get upset at you for that. They're like, what? Who do you think you are? I don't think I'm anything but a being who wants to use my conversation as a way of uplifting myself and the other person. Like you come together, merge, and then you walk away with this, you know, we call it a playground of ideas as opposed to a marketplace of ideas, a place where you can play with concepts without fear of being contaminated by them, you know, in some way, taking what you want, leaving the rest.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, at that point, you kind of it's like they can either take what you are saying, or they can not take it and just continue their modern conversation. You know, but it's kind of up to them. It's like you can either try to continue, but it's really up to them whether they're willing to listen or not.
Right.
And at that point, either you just, you know, have to walk away, or if you really want to reach that person, you kind of have to go to their level a little bit in order to reach into them, which can be kind of challenging.
Yeah, just interfacing with another human could be challenging.
Yeah.
Right? All right, before we lose some time here, what's our next one? We might not get through our whole list, so that's okay. We're going to give it 33 minutes, I think.
Yeah. Happiness is activity in accordance with the highest excellence.
See, he kind of gives us a definition of happiness right there.
Yeah.
And in a way, you think about it, it's true. Like when you do something of value for the world or for yourself or for others, something that is quote unquote honorable, whatever that might mean to you, there's definitely this feeling of happiness associated with it, you know.
Yeah.
Creating is like that, you know, when you have creative urges and you fulfill them, there's a bliss that kind of comes over you, you know.
Right.
What does it bring up for you?
Well, it just made me think, like, you know, when you watch that movie, when dogs like wag their tails, like they can't help it. They're so happy, you know, but they're so active in being loving and joyful all the time.
To us, right?
Yeah.
Not to each other all the time. But I say
But
most
they're
of the time.
like constantly being active in that, and like they're always, you know, playing. And so it's like happiness is definitely an innate, like natural thing that comes when you kind of just do the things you're meant to do, you know, which is.
For me, happiness is complete trust. I feel most, I guess you could say, coherent in myself when I just allow myself to trust. And then I look at the story of my life, or the poem of my life, as I like to call it, and I see how the arc is played out. And it's always least likely, most beautiful outcomes. And I continue to call that in with trust. When I'm out of that element, I definitely can sense it and feel the anxiety of the world and the rush of all those things. But that's what I like a little about the Literati experience, is that it sort of brings us back to that state. You know, when you hear something from one of these people that really rings your bell, it's like a bell in all of us, and it resonates as true, capital T truth, which is what we're after, right? All right, what else we got?
Be able to entertain a thought without being attached to it.
I think that's, you know, what I'm trying to get at with the series really is, here's all these different thoughts. You can find people from the occult, you can find people from ancient Islam, you can find people from, you know, the elements of all traditions across cultures, all sexes, and you might hear something you do not agree with. You know, I've had to say things, and I put them in these series not because I agree with them, some of these things, but because this is what the person said, and I want to be an accurate representative of what they truly thought, you know. And but being able to hold those those many concepts, many of which I do not agree with, and many of which I do, but to hold them equally on a scale and say, okay, I can just let these go now, you know, but to entertain them for a while, just to see, you know, this process of paradigm shifting, allowing yourself to dislodge the programming through taking on many narratives and weighing them all and keeping the ones that resonate. Yeah. Try that. It's a good experience. It's a good habit to develop, you know, as we're talking about good habits.
Just
what else we got?
Not being attached to anything.
Right.
Good habit. Let's see. Memory is the scribe of the soul.
Memory, wow. Memory is the mother of all muses in the ancient Greek tradition. I thought that was an interesting tidbit, but memory is the scribe of the soul. And And we've talked a lot about the importance of developing memory. As a poet, for me, it's something that just sort of comes naturally. I've harnessed that ability in dream space and in real life, where I can, speak for 72 hours without needing to refer to a text, because this organism of memory is a muscle like any other that just gets better with time. But and it's sort of, you need it to be able to tell the story of your life. If you think about it, all the little details from childhood, all the little details from adolescence and onward. But what does that bring up for you in terms of memory? Because I know your generation has outsourced memory, a lot of it, to these devices and whatnot.
It's difficult because, like, we have Google, like, we don't have to think or memorize anything. We can just look it up.
Now Google is the mother of all music.
Yeah.
Lord help us.
Yeah. So it's been kind of challenging just to, like, be part of that generation, like, knowing if I ever want to know anything or remember anything, I can always just, like, go somewhere else and find it instead of my own brain.
Right.
But for me, just kind of taking a step back from that and just bringing awareness to my thoughts and my body and trying to just, keep it within me instead of reaching out for information. It's a practice that I can see if I pursue that, it will help.
It's like working out with your brain.
Yeah. And just also, like, if there's something you want to remember, train yourself to, prioritize it in your brain, like, repeat it over and over and over again. Whether it's a word or a sentence or a poem, like, just the practice of remembering that will strengthen your brain to remember anything.
My memory is sort of born out of necessity. Growing up really poor, I couldn't afford books, and so I would go into bookstores and read books in the bookstore, and then the parts I liked I would just memorize so that I could take it with me. I thought, and soon it became, when you start doing that at a young age, it becomes easy to memorize whatever you want to memorize because you've gotten that practice in. Same with dreaming and remembering your dreams. It's all about practicing the art of remembering.
Right, yeah.
Which is a difficult thing in this day and age. We have so many millions of things trying to take our attention.
Stimulations all the time.
Right.
Yeah, distractions.
Yeah, I like what the Norwegians have a thing called slow TV, where it's like, just train rides across the country. It's like wow, you can just take it easy and enjoy life. You don't have to get in the rat race, get all chewed up.
Yeah.
All right, we got time for just a few more.
Okay.
Might not finish our list, but
the ideal being bears the accidents of life with dignity and grace by making the most of every circumstance.
yeah, that relates to what we were saying earlier. I think we can chalk that up to the one that we said earlier and keep that one as part of that.
Yeah, that's true.
You might hear our dogs in the background. That's Mahalo and Poetry, part of our pack of 5 wild creatures that we keep here at the Chrysalis. All beautiful, all loving, one of them pregnant as well. And so I think this last one we should cover here is this one on the bottom here, because I think that this is a concept that we've lost sight of.
Yeah. The art of living well.
Wow, the art of living well. That living well is not just about being alive and having all the toys, but there's an art to living well.
Yeah.
And I think, again, like anything else, there's different definitions of what that looks like. But what does living well look like for you? Does that stand out to you, the art of living well?
Because just living well can be something. We're not taught how to exactly live well.
We're not even really taught how to live.
Yeah, we're taught how to, like, live.
Get by, basically.
Get by, yeah. But like, living well to me it means being in nature first, because I can't imagine my life without being in nature. Like, if we're away from nature, when sometimes we go run errands, we go grocery shopping, like,
To the matrix.
Even just for a couple hours, I feel so disconnected.
All those UV lights.
Yeah, it's just so first nature. That's living well, but also the art of living well is basically what it means to me is like having a blueprint for living well that's uniquely styled to you, that you create, like you create the story of your life. You know, by like actively being aware of yourself is a tremendous step in living well. You know, because if you aren't aware of yourself, then you kind of like let your thoughts and your feelings take over you, and then you just get in the habit of living and getting by, you know. But bringing awareness, bringing joy, bringing happiness, you know, in everything you do and everything you want to do. It's like the art of living well.
I like that. Well, whatever your definition of living well is, or the good life, Aristotle certainly has his viewpoints. We didn't get through our whole list. I think we still have another 5 or so to go, but we don't want to take too much of your time. We just wanted to invite you to join us on our journey as we discuss these things. But is there one that sort of stands out to you to end the show up with? Is there any one of these that really you think would be worth...
The last ones?
Yeah, these last few here.
I think pleasure in the job creates perfection in the work.
How many people really like their job?
Yeah.
Not many people.
Yeah.
But when you do love what you're doing, I think for me that's what that says, is that when you love what you're doing, you create an excellence and a quality of excellence or of whatever it is you're attempting to create, you know. But there's an achievement there that is unqualified. It doesn't need to be qualified. What does that mean? What does it mean for you? I mean, it creates like when you cook, you know, when you cook something with love, people taste that love in the food.
Yeah.
It's almost like that. What does it bring up for you?
It's true. When I made Thanksgiving dinner a couple days ago, like before I started making it, I was kind of in a bad mood. I was like, oh, I don't really want to do it. It's late. It's like, but then once I started doing it, like I got really excited because I was like, oh, I've been looking forward to this. And then I started enjoying it like a lot, and
it was delish.
It was delicious.
We spent that day by a fireside on a volcano.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
It was a beautiful day.
Watched the winds roll by.
Yeah.
The rain fall into the volcano.
I'm glad that the dinner worked out just as I thought it was. I was worried that it wasn't going to work out, but once I started getting into it, it was like I enjoyed cooking. So it was fun.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us. Anything you want to say to the home audience?
Well, till next time.
Till next time, remember that living well and dying well are one and the same. So thank you for joining us here on the Literati Experience. We hope to see you again. Aloha.